What happens to your brain? Like, because you've spoken to some experts, and what happens to your brain once you stop? Like, once it gets back to normal?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you go through a rebooting, rewiring process if you're intentional about what you're doing, right? So the term neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to change through experience. So I don't think just stopping watching porn actually produces a significant amount of change. It begins to unwire and kind of heal some things. I think it's
Mm.
the intentional work that you do in the process of pursuing freedom that actually creates the change, right? So understand that, if you've been struggling long enough, like there are deep neural connections that fire when something triggers you. That firing now creates a pattern of behaviors that leads you to consuming pornography. So a lot of this is kind of, it's programmed into us. So when we're triggered, we have to create new patterns, right? I think, James Clear does an incredible job in Atomic Habits of identifying the 3 steps of every habit, right? Trigger, behavior, reward. So we have to understand that those triggers are still going to be there. The things that triggered us to want to go watch pornography, quitting porn is eliminating that from your life. So what happens when those things happen? You have to create new patterns of behavior. So in time, through intentional work, what happens is the trigger happens, and now you have healthier outlets. So when I'm stressed, angry, tired, dealing with lacks of feelings of self, insecurity, doubt, hopelessness, whatever those things are, some of those emotions will go away. I think hopelessness and kind of sadness will deteriorate, but you're still going to be stressed. You're still going to be triggered. You're still going to get angry. All those feelings are a part of the human experience. So when those things arise and come up in your life, what are the new patterns that you create? So you create new patterns, you create new neural pathways in your brain, and now you begin to operate from a sense of like pure joy and freedom. I love the quote from Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. Within that space lies our ability to choose. Within our choice rests our freedom. He's talking about it obviously on his grand scheme of life, right? But if we kind of zoom in a little bit and talk about freedom from pornography, most men are so unconsciously or subconsciously unaware of what's happening that when they're stressed, they're immediately running to pornography without having any full control of it. So we got to be able to step back from ourselves a little bit and begin to kind of see a third party perspective. Okay, when this happens, how can I pause for a moment? Can I develop a self-regulation tool to give me a space now to make a better choice for myself? The
Mm.
prefrontal cortex begins to heal. Obviously, I think there's better scientists that can kind of talk about that from kind of a brain structural standpoint. But if you've been caught up in it long enough, know that there is some gray matter that's been developed in your brain, and that will heal through time. One thing I've noticed is you see people differently. When you consume pornography, the part of your brain that is firing and going off is the parts that are associated with objects. So, I have a bottle here sitting on my desk, right? If I was going to like go pick it up, like my brain has to identify that as something as of an object that I can actually reach out and physically touch. When you interact in your community and connection, intimacy with people, whole different area of your brain is firing. What ends up happening though, as a guy that's consuming massive amounts of pornography, you begin to associate human beings as objects. This is where the word objectification comes in. You see women literally as sexual objects. Well, if we can recondition ourselves that women are in fact human beings and they're not here for us to use for our own pleasure, then we see them differently. The brain, the eyes are in fact just an extension of the brain. So as your brain heals, this is, I don't think this is pure anecdotal in my experience and thousands of men that we've worked with, right? You begin to see the world a whole lot differently. So yeah, there's a lot that's kind of happening there.